Robert, in this video, I want to talk about two midfielders potentially coming in for Manchester United. United spending in January an update on Diego Leon, as well as some other things as well as Xerxes. And we go through the latest interview quotes that Ben Jacobs has done with United stands. So, this is what it started off with. He talked about January, and he said, I think they could attack the January market if the right names become available, but they won't panic buy. And they know that if they spend big in January, then it might impact on the total they're prepared to spend in the summer. If they get into January and hopefully they don't pick up any injuries, if the form continues, they may feel that a lot of summer signings are paying off. He said, on midfielders, two, I believe, minimum are going to come in 2026. Casemiro is playing really well and also scoring goals. If Manu can get more opportunities and if Manchester United is suddenly looking more fluid, then you don't need to do it all in January. I don't expect Manchester United to do anything rash in January, nor do I think they're signed for the sake of signing. He said on whether Amorim trusts Manu for the long term, he said, yeah, I do, but I think they've got slightly different philosophies on the kind of football they want to play. Amorim's be working with Manu, not about the system and not about the physical side of the game, but actually about the intelligence that you want with the system. If they can get part of the game right, he's got everything in his locker to be an elite player for Manchester United. If you look at their midfield, Ruben Amorim loves Mason Mount. Brian and Burma obviously got player of the month, and we know Cunha's going to start the games when he's fit. So if Sesko leaves the line, then there's no space for all of them. And Bruno Fernandes, unless Sesko doesn't start and one of them leaves the line, alternatively Bruno Fernandes drops a little bit deeper, and that of course has taken up another central midfield spot. Casemiro's experience and form is holding down his position at the moment, and that means that Kobbie Mainoo isn't playing that much, but it doesn't mean that his future is over at Manchester United. Amorim wants to give Mainoo time and thinks that that's best for his development, and Kobbie Mainoo doesn't want to wait for time because he's already played a lot for United. He has others to his and he has a World Cup on the horizon. So if this was the 26-27 season after the World Cup, maybe Mainoo and the manager would be a bit more reliant. Mainoo has to think the short term, and Amorim is thinking about Mainoo's development long term, and that's why at the moment it's quite a frustrating situation. So yeah, listen, again, I also saw something on Anderson. He could be cheaper in the summer. Don't be surprised if the price is significantly lower for Elliot Anderson. So on the midfield, I think certainly Amorim had a dilemma on the midfield. It all just depends on whether Mainoo leaves, whether Ugarte, Bruno, what really happens. And I think we do need two midfielders. And I think the expectation is Casemiro and Bruno go and you bring in someone else. Now, I don't want that to happen. I think Bruno's got one more season in him. And I think, listen, naivety, I think Casemiro can go. But Bruno, I want him one more year at the club. Now, I think Casemiro is a player who, again, depending on how the remainder of this season goes, he could potentially find himself at United for another year again. But he will have to take a reduced wage. I think we know the midfield's a position that we need. I think two midfielders coming in were probably the best decision. And that's what I was talking about the other day. I think it would probably be Elliot Anderson, a Balewa or a Wharton, and a more cheaper young option to come into the team. Now, he then talked about a fullback. Obviously, there's been talks about a left wing back and wing backs coming in. He said, well, I think they're looking at a versatile fullback, whether that's somebody who can play left wing back, centre back. If they can switch sides even better, so you look at a profile, for example, Livramento, capable of playing on the right and the left. Trippier falls into that category. These are not Man United targets, but the kind of profile they need to add. I don't think it's a priority for the January window. We've got Leon, who's doing excellent, I'm told, in training, a bit like Christian Mosquera. Arsenal is a kind of talent that Manchester United could be very quickly ready for the Premier League soon. So listen, on the wing-back situation, I think United obviously invested heavily in Dorgu last January, spending £40 million on him, and I think you just have to give the guy time. He's a young player, he's up and coming, and he's had a tricky start to the season, but I think United have to continue to persevere with him. Amorim, again, doesn't really seem to be starting him in many games at the moment. But I think there is a player there in Dorgu. I think he's a talented player. And I think he can offer a lot to the team. And I think in a wing-back, I think we do need someone who's probably more versatile. You look at Mazraoui, he's probably the only one who can do right wing-back and left wing-back to a decent standard. Dalot can't do it. We've seen that. Obviously, Dorgu has played right wing-back before. But again, Amorim just doesn't prefer him there. So we probably do need someone who's very versatile. If you look at someone like Mazraoui, I mean, he's probably the most versatile player we have in the back five. He can play right centre-back, he's played left centre-back before, he's played right wing-back and he's played left wing-back. So he does, and he can play a plethora of position for United. But again, I don't think that's going to be a priority. I think the midfield is a priority going forward. He was then talked about Etta Young, could be one to look at for the summer. He's a young up-and-coming player from Villarreal. He said Victor Roque is happy where he is and it may be difficult to persuade him to move to the Prem. If the right valuation is hit, player and club could change the perspective. You're looking at around 60 million minimum. So Victor Roque obviously is an interesting player to kind of look at. He's a decent midfielder. Obviously, I believe he was at Barca and it didn't really work out there. But the last thing I want to talk about is the squad. The squad is being put out for the game tomorrow against Tottenham, and this is it. So Kobe Mainoo and Martinez were not spotted from the squad, and were not spotted travelling with the squad to face Tottenham. Looks like Jack Fletcher will come in for Kobe Mainoo. So listen, I think Jack Fletcher coming in is just to keep the tradition. I think he probably would have been in the squad anyway, but to keep the tradition of obviously every academy player being in the squad since 1937. So yeah, I think he will be in there. Obviously disappointing. I think it probably will be an injury with Kobe Mainoo. But let's see what happens there. Now the squad to face Spurs: Le Mans, Bayinda, Heaton, Dallo, Yoro, Masraoui, De Ligt, Dorgu, Shaw, Maguire, Ugarte, Casemiro, Bruno, Mount, Jack Fletcher, Cunha, Ahmad Sesko and Bermo Xerxes. So again, some players, obviously Martinez he was in training but he hasn't made it to the squad. So I think it's a pretty much squad you can expect without Mainoo and Lisandro Martinez, who again is probably expected to be in. I think after the international break now he'll be back in the squad. But yeah, let's get into the team. I'll quickly I'll run through my team. It'll be Le Mans, obviously Yoro, De Ligt, Shaw, Dorgu, Ahmad, Casemiro, Bruno, Mbeumo, Cunha, Sesko. That would be the team I go for. But that has been the latest update. 2 midfielders expected to come in. Let's see what happens and what develops with that. Elliot Anderson could potentially be valued at something less than 75 million. You could get him for a price, a fee of around 75 million, which again, I wouldn't say it's a steal, but it's certainly better than obviously spending 100 million. I think it all depends. We know United are having those meetings and regular weekly meetings to decide on which player they want to bring in. So that'd be something that will be going on externally internally at Manchester United at this moment. So yeah, we need to kind of see what happens and develops there. But that has been your latest update. Let me know your thoughts, team ahead of the game as well. And yeah, it's an interesting bit of news for United.